Praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of YAHUAH HaMashiach this day. And search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you shall receive. How can you receive honor which come one? He said, how can you believe who seek honor one of another, and not the honor that come from Elohim only? 2 Chronicles chapter 34 and verse 18. 2 Chronicles chapter 34 verse 18. You can also cross-reference and hold, because it's the same story, but I want you to see both of them. 2 Kings chapter 22 and verse 1. Hold on one second. Almost forgot to do that. Alrighty then, 2 Chronicles 34 and 18. And when they brought out the money that was brought into the house of Yahuwah, Hilkiah the priest found a book of the Torah of Yahuwah given by Moses. Hold on. Alright, I got you. Second Chronicles 34 and 18. I'm sorry, that's 34 and 14. And when they brought out the money that was brought into the house of Yahuwah, Hilkiah the priest found the book of the Torah of Yahuwah given by Moses. And Hilkiah answered and said to Shaphan the scribe, I found the book of the Torah in the house of Yahuwah. And Hilkiah delivered the book to Shaphan. Shaphan carried the book to the Malek and brought the Malek word back again, saying, all that was committed to thy servants, they do it. And they gathered together the money that was found in the house of Yahuwah and delivered unto the hand of the overseers and to the hand of the workmen. Then Shaphan the scribe told the Malek, saying, Hilkiah the priest had given me a book, and Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the Malek heard the words of the Torah, he rent his clothes. And the Malek commanded Hilkiah and Hakim the son of Shaphan, and Abaddon the son of Micah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Asaiah servant of the Malek, saying, go and inquire of Yahuwah for me, and for them that are left in Yasharal and in Yehudah, concerning the words of the book that is found. For great is the wrath of Yahuwah that is poured out upon us, because our fathers have not kept the word of Yahuwah to do after all that is written in this book. So, we talked about that a little bit, I think, last week, of how when Josiah began to repair the temple and to cleanse the land and all of those things. And we started a little bit in verse 8, and I think we stopped on Shabbat. I ain't go no further. Let's go back that up to verse 8 so y'all can see the context of what's going on in this 34th chapter, because we didn't read that on Shabbat. My apologies. We ended up going off and dealing with these false prophecies that individuals are spitting about what's going on in current events. And I think we went off to dealing with that. The recreation of what's done in Genesis chapter 1 is what Yahushua will do upon his return. He'll recreate everything, but everything will be eternal and not destructible. So that's 34 and 8, right? So now the 18th year of his reign. So this means this is when Josiah is 26 years old. When he had purged the land and the house, he sent Shaphan the son of Azaliah and Messiah the governor of the city, and Joab the son of Joaz the recorder, to repair the house of Yahuwah his Elohim. Now remember that purging meaning to cleanse. So now they're going to cleanse the inside of the sanctuary. We kind of talked about that last Wednesday with Hezekiah, and then we talked about it a little bit with Josiah. He did the same thing during his reign, which is symbolic of us cleansing out our inward parts, because at the end of the day, the commandments are null and void if your heart is not clean. See, your ancestors kept commandments, and he said your feasts and Shabbats, he said he didn't want nothing to do with, because your hands were covered in blood. Because the book tell you, when you sin, your blood be upon you. So You get caught up on the fact that Mashiach is coming to cleanse you. This is what we dealt with last week. If you don't allow him to cleanse what's inside of you, then what you're doing is going to serve you no purpose. What cleanses you is his blood, and it is the word. The word should purge your conscience from dead works. Ain't no way in the world that you consume a living word that is mean to cleanse you up from your filth and all of your unrighteousness, and then you still be inwardly unrighteous and thinking that outward forms of worship is going to cover that up, when eventually, like the book says, abundance of the heart the mouth speak, and what come out of man defiled. So then it's the uncleanliness that rests in your heart is what's going to have you getting cut off, when you could just wash it out with the word. And when they came to Hilkiah the high priest, they delivered the money that was brought into the house of Elohim, which the Levites that kept the doors and gathered out of the hand of Manasseh and Ephraim all the remnant of Yasharal and all of Yehudah and Benjamin, and they returned to Jerusalem. And they put it in the hand of the workmen that had the oversight of the house of Yahuwah, and they gave it to the workmen that wrought in the house of Yahuwah to repair and amend the house. Even to the artificers and the builders gave they it to buy hewn stone and timbers for couplings, and to floor the houses which the maliks of Yehudah destroyed. Now let me look at something real quick. And I ain't gonna get too far off topic, but we gotta sit back and look at it. Clear when you know an overseer of the house is taking you to a pastor, a shepherd, a bishop, things of that nature. And we done dealt with some of that stuff in previous times about why they put the money in their hands. We're not really focusing on that right now. What we want to be focused on is, he's saying, buying timbers for couplings. Goodness grief. I know how to fix that real quick. Forgive me for a second. The doggone phone ain't cooperating. Let's see if it want to cooperate now. Hold on, man. Well, we ain't gonna be able to deal with that because my phone is not cooperating. So let's look at verse 12. And the men did the work faithfully, and the overseers of them were Jahath and Obadiah, the Levites, the son of Merari, Zechariah and Meshullam, the son of the Kohathites, to set it for, and other of the Levites, all that could skill of instruments of music, and they were over the bearers of the burdens, and were overseers of all that wrought the work in any manner of service. And of the Levites there were scribes, officers, and porters. Now, the reason why this is, and we're gonna have to deal with this here. Hold on. Hello.
Yeah, that's thing.
Yeah. Now, because my app ain't working, so this stuff ain't coming. Now, let's look at something, right? It says that all the Levites were the overseers of the house. Why would it be important? Let's hold this 2 Chronicles 34, and let's go look at Malachi chapter 2, and then from Malachi chapter 2, Titus chapter 1, because it said they were also scribes and porters, and you know porters were keepers of the doors. All this stuff is important to a certain extent. I don't know what's wrong with Abigail today. And this is Malachi chapter 2. And we'll pick it up at about verse 5 as I see if this app is going to cooperate. And it does not want to. Now here it goes. No, I spoke too soon. Let me see something real quick. That ain't it. That junk just ain't working. Well, that sucks completely. But nevertheless, continuing on. Malachi 2 and 5. Don't know what they got going on with that. My covenant was with him of life and shalom, and I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me and was afraid before my name. The Torah of truth was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked with me in shalom and equity, and did turn away many from iniquity. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the Torah at his mouth, for he is the messenger of YAHUAH of hosts. Now, this is the reason why when you seen him giving oversight to cleanse the house and get it right, he also said they dealt faithfully, and all this here is, these are Levites. These are the priests. These are the ones who's supposed to teach the word. These are the ones who's supposed to be able to get the people cleaned up, because that's why he say the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law or the word at his mouth, because Yah has sent them to do so. This is why when you look at no other tribe had oversight to cleanse this house up other than them. Now we know we under the priesthood of Melchizedek, which tribe affiliation is irrelevant. But nevertheless, if he sent you to do it, in essence, according to the Torah, you would be a Levite, but not necessarily a Levite bloodline wise or according to the flesh. I think this will get a lot of dudes tripped up, because they looking at it as forth as being, if you're a Levite, you have to be one according to the flesh. You would be a Levite because you are a priest. That's it. That means a teacher of the Torah. A lot of dudes like to give themselves the title of priest and chief high priest and all this stuff, and they can do whatever they want to do with that. But the book tell you not to ascribe titles unto yourself. You know what I'm saying? Tell you about that. Also tell you about don't give yourself any praise. Let it come from another man's lips. Dudes like to do the opposite on the regular. Titus chapter 1. And all that for the purpose of him telling you that is for humility. It's just for humility, so you don't go to feeling yourself and feeling too good about yourself. A lot of dudes be, you know what I'm saying, feeling yourself, and then that pride go ahead and trip you up, jam you up. Titus chapter 1, I want to say verse 5. We'll make it verse 6. If any be blameless, the husband of one wife, having faithful children, and not accused of riot or unruly. For a bishop must be blameless as a steward of Elohim, not self-willed, not soon angry, not given to wine, no striker, not given to filthy lucre, but a lover of hospitality, a lover of good men, sober, just, kadesh, and temperate, holding fast the faithful word as he have been taught, that he may be able by sound doctrine both to exhort and to convince the gainsayers. Now, we didn't read it where in Timothy he said that you should not be a novice unless you fall in condemnation of the adversary. You know, a novice is someone who is unskilled. You're a neophyte. You're a rookie. You know what I'm saying? You just coming into the game. When you just coming into the game and you trying to assume a particular position and you don't have the experience or the skill set to do so, you're going to embarrass yourself. Then when you embarrass yourself, this allows the adversary to condemn the word and condemn you and everything you got going on. This is one of the instances why it's stated in the word, not if you say, if you want a minister to wait on that service, because if you don't have the ability, you're not gonna shame just yourself, you're gonna shame Yahuwah in the word. And that's what you see regularly, because for whatever reason, individuals amongst our people feel like everybody can assume this position and everybody can do it. That's never been the case in the history of our people ever. If you've been paying attention to the stuff what we've been looking at with all these kings and all this stuff, you can see that has never been the case ever. If they weren't a Levite, they were not attempting to teach anybody the word. Now, they were trying to give false prophecies. There was a lot of them prophesying in Yah's name, telling bold-faced lies. But if forth is instructing out of the book of the Torah or the book of Yahuwah, they did not do that. They didn't operate in that fashion. They didn't have the skill set. They went to the people who had the skill set, which is the Levites. That's why we have so many. Because a dude asked me this the other day. Dude made a video say Isaiah 29:11 about the book seal. He said the book still sealed. That's why everybody understanding off. I'm like, I'm gonna disagree with you on that, because the book say Hamashiach unloosed the seals. We just looked at that on the Shabbat, and we done looked at it in the past. So the book is not sealed. The thing that was sealed at the time was the testimony of Mashiach. That has been unsealed. That is out here. Yahuwah gives it to whomever he want to give it to. So with that being said, he's saying, well, if it's been unsealed, why do you have so many different camps teaching so many different doctrines? Because there have to be false prophets. I do not understand why people do not see that, yes, there will be people out here lying on the word, lying on Yahuwah, teaching things that they ought not teach, vain and unruly talkers, especially they of the circumcision, whose mouths must be stopped. I don't understand why dudes don't think that that's going to occur. That Every blue just supposed to be in righteousness and teach righteousness. That is a fallacy of your own brain. That's not reality. Don't think that way. Don't be that naive. Don't be that stupid. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. If there were false prophets before any of us were born, what makes you think it's going to stop now? Everybody got a role to play. Somebody got to be a true prophet. Somebody got to be a false one. Somebody got to be a true teacher. Somebody got to be a false one. Somebody got to be righteous. Somebody got to be unrighteous. Somebody got to be saved, and somebody got to be condemned. It is what it is. You got to make sure that you are on the right side of the ledger and not on the left. That's it. You can't concern yourself with certain things, or why is it this and why is it that? That's outside of our control. Yahuwah work the stuff how he want to work it. Those that's supposed to come together in the unity of the faith, like Paul wrote in Ephesians chapter 4, that will occur. If you're not supposed to come together in the unity of the faith in the body of Mashiach, then hey, it is what it is. Ain't nothing we can do about that. All we can pray is that we are counted worthy to enter into that. That's it. So when we see how he set these, and let me see if this thing gonna work, because it's really this whole, because there's something in it that's telling me that it's really relevant to what we're looking at, and the star going out will not cooperate with us this evening, and he still won't cooperate. Come back to 2 Chronicles 34. My bad. We need 1 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 1. Now he set all these men to be over the bearers of the burdens, and they were overseers of all that work at any manner of service. So when we look at this 1 Corinthians chapter 4, and he also said that these men dealt faithfully, because I'm trying to lead the son. And then 1 Corinthians chapter 9. 1 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 1. It says, let a man so account of us as of the ministers of Mashiach and stewards of the mysteries of Elohim. Always remember that the Levites were the stewards of the word. We haven't got to that particular point dealing with Hezekiah all the way completely with Hezekiah's account of keeping the Passover. Miss Yahuwah willing, we're going to get to that, because we got to divert Shabbat day to deal with the immersion thing as far as pertaining to the children. So we're going to have to take a diversion for just that one day. But Friday we'll continue looking at Josiah, y'all willing. But he said that it was the Levites who taught the good word of Yahuwah. This is why he said my covenant of was life was shalom with him. This is why he said that, because they were stewards of the word. They were the keepers of the word. They were to watch over it. They were to minister unto the people, that the people would know of Yahuwah and learn of him. Now you're under the priesthood of Melchizedek, and these same overseers who are over the house end up becoming the apostles, because they were the one who were given the mysteries, and then they were the one who imparted those mysteries unto men like Titus, because Paul taught Titus. Paul taught Timothy. When you remember in Acts chapter 14, it stated that they ordained elders in every city. This was the apostles who did this. So the apostles sat down with these men and taught them the mysteries so they could have that skill set to be able to teach it to the people. This is a act that is highly overlooked, and we'll get Acts chapter 14 so y'all can see that for yourself. This is something that is highly overlooked that men don't like to talk about or deal with. These men who were not apostles in office just didn't pop up one day with this information. This is why the apostles were going from city to city and spot to spot and synagogue to synagogue and assembly to assembly, because they were teaching these men and appointing these men to be elders and overseers of these congregations and giving them this knowledge. That's why he said that they may be able to denounce the gainsayers with sound doctrine as they had been taught. So that means that bishop, that pastor, that elder, that overseer had been instructed in this information. Somebody taught it to him. Now, case in point. Now, once a man like Titus, who Paul taught it to him, then of course Titus can go teach it to somebody else. We'll get John 15 in that in a second. Hold on. Verse 2. He said, moreover, it was required in the stewards that a man be found faithful. But with me it is a very small thing that I should be judged of you, or of man's judgment. Yea, I judge not my own self. For I know nothing by myself, yet I am not hereby justified, but he that judged me is the master. So always remember this here, right? You're not justified of yourself. Ain't another man gonna judge you. Case in point now, pay attention. Judging you is forfeits your complete final condemnation or justification. Because we know Paul went and came and judged that Peter did incorrectly, is forfeits with the Gentiles in Galatians chapter 2. You got to know that when you're judging something or discerning between right and wrong and then pronouncing judgment as forth as condemnation or justification, you got to understand the difference in when they come into play. Because if you stealing and somebody say you know you wrong for stealing, then they haven't condemned you to death. They have discerned through judgment that you wrong in that behavior, or discerning through judgment if this is a wise decision or a foolish decision. So when you see judgment in the book or judge, don't always think that that's meaning that somebody's condemning you or pointing out a fault. Because that's why we talked about that briefly a couple weeks ago or last week. You have to be able to know right from wrong. You have to be able to judge right from wrong. You have to be able to judge justly. And you're judging off the word and off the ruach, not off your flesh and your emotions and your feelings. If you judge according to that, you will judge incorrectly 100% of the time, mostly. As forth as pertaining to the righteousness of Yahuwah. Now let's come over here to 1 Corinthians chapter 9. All we want you to do is be able to discern and judge. Because there could be a time where you could be on your own, especially if things get hectic. And you're going to have to be able to know how to judge wisely. Because you might not be able to ask or lean on another person. So you're supposed to be able to lean on the word. Because you know the book tell you before war, make counsel. But if there's nobody for you to get counsel from, then you have to know the word to be able to judge correctly. And always remember what the master told you. Don't judge according to appearance. Judge righteous judgment. Don't judge matters based off what it looks like. Because majority of the time you could be wrong if you go by what it looks like. Because remember what happened with him in John 7. They judged him for being wrong for healing a man on a Shabbat day. On appearance, it looked like he was wrong. Upon further examination, he wasn't wrong. That's why a lot of things get thrown haywire, because we judge something based on how it looks. And you could be wrong. As the common idiom is said, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge based off appearance or outward looking things, because you could be wrong. 1 Corinthians chapter 9 verse 1. Am I not an apostle? Am I not free? Have I not seen Yahushua HaMashiach our master? Are you not my work in the master? If I be not an apostle unto others, yet doubtless I am to you. For the seal of my apostleship are ye in the master. My answer to them that do examine me is this: have we not power to eat and to drink? Have we not power to lead about a sister, a wife, as well as other apostles, and as brethren of the master and Cephas? This is why we came there for verse 5. As you see, the Levites were given the power by the king to lead about other people who were on par or equal or lesser than them. Because it said these Levites were given oversight of those who worked over the house. The reason why we're looking at the key point is this man said, do we not have power to lead about other apostles? So there wouldn't be a power struggle, or I'm better than you, or I got to do this. That didn't occur with these men, because these men operated in righteousness. They weren't concerned with that. They could remember what the master taught them, which was, you are unprofitable servants doing is what your duty is to do. A lot of men have forgotten this or don't know this because they're concerned with fame, attention, adulation, and things of this nature, which a person who's been sent to preach the word is not even supposed to be concerned with. Nevertheless, it was something else that I wanted. Let me look in this second. Come on, God, I know I was looking at. Yes, 1 Corinthians chapter 3. But the artificers and the builders was given them to buy stone, and because I can't pull up, this stuff ain't coming up for me to look at. Okay, it was a invalid response. There's a problem with the page and it cannot be displayed. Thank you for allowing me to know that there was a service error, because I figured that out already. Nevertheless, 1 Corinthians chapter 3. And we want 1 Corinthians chapter 3. And we want about verse 7. I'm sorry, about verse 9. Well, we'll look at verse 8. Matter of fact, 6 is cool. I have planted, Apollos has watered, but Elohim gave the increase. So then neither is he that plant anything, neither he that watered, but Elohim that give the increase. So Paul let it be known that the person who's planting the seed, watering the seed, in actuality, you are not anything, because you are a servant. You don't sit down at meat and get served. You're serving those who sit down at meat, which is symbolic of Hamashiach serving the people, and that's why he gave them that analogy. And I want to say Luke chapter 17 is forth as his apostles, knowing that you are here to serve and that you don't get no props or benefit because you're doing what you've been commanded to do and what you're supposed to be doing. Now he that plant and he that water are one. Every man shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are laborers together with Elohim, and you are Elohim's husbandry. You are Elohim's building. Hello? Hello? According to the favor of Elohim, which is given unto me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and another build thereon. But let every man take heed how he build thereupon. For the other foundation can no man lay that is laid, which is Yahushua HaMashiach. So understanding and note this. Yahushua is the chief cornerstone. All these men who are doing this work and the overseers were in the blue blazers. All these Levites, and they were the bearers. They were over the bearers of the burdens. Meaning, as quoted in Ephesians chapter 4, it's the apostles, then the prophets, then the pastors, then the evangelists, and then the teachers. They were over those who were responsible for doing the work, and they were overseers of those who worked the work at any manner of service. They were the scribes, they were the officers, they were the porters. They was the ones who were supposed to be rebuilding this house. This is why there's an order of that. Because see, I was thinking about this earlier, and I told y'all this before, because I already knew that I was going to be dealing with this evening. For whatever reason, men believe that they to be the ones that's supposed to teach their wife the word. Nowhere in the book does it tell you this, that it is a man's responsibility to teach his wife the word. It says it's a man's job to lead his wife. Actually, the book tells you that you're supposed to love your wife as Mashiach loved his. So you're supposed to exemplify through the service to your wife the service that Mashiach did to his wife. When it says the man is the head, it means that the man leads or operates in the household. He has the final authority in the home. Just because you're married does not mean you're supposed to teach the word, because you may not have the skill set to do so. When Corinthians tells you if you have a question to ask your husband at home, because your husband is supposed to be the one to be able to pay attention to be able to edify your question. But also you see that it says the priest-lips keep knowledge, and they're supposed to seek the law at his mouth, not seek the law at your husband's mouth. The reason why I see this here, and pay attention close to what I'm saying, because a lot of brews feel like, okay, if I'm not teaching my wife and this dude teaching her, that he trying to control my household. I believe that most men who think like this are very insecure and want to be able to control and domineer their wife and interpret the scriptures however they want to interpret it, to be able to get this woman to do whatever it is that they want her to do. So they don't want her to hear any outside information outside of what he deemed to be correct, because this is how he wants to direct and move this woman. If a man is a true priest, we're going to tell you what the word say. He's not going to try to control your house, because Yahuwah should be controlling your house according to his word. If a man is trying to use the word to control your home, then that's an issue. But a man should have enough humility in himself to say, you know what, I can't show you this. Like reading the word with each other and all that stuff is totally different from someone instructing you. Because if you don't know what you're talking about, you can damn not only yourself, but the person you're showing it to, and possibly your children. That's how serious that is if this nigga don't know what he's talking about. Like, you have to consider that. If he don't know what he's talking about, he can damn the whole house. Because he's going to have you going off. You should have enough humility as a man to say, shoot, we can go over stuff and we can talk about stuff, but I ain't your teacher though, because that's not my position. Because I know if I ain't teach you, I could care less. We can look over this stuff, that. I'm not going to try to teach you. I don't have that ability. Everybody has a job in the body. That's why the book says, everybody an apostle? No. Is everybody a prophet? No. Does everybody have gift of tongues? No. Everybody don't have the same gift. Everybody don't have the same ability. And everybody wants to jam that teaching in, because that's a position of authority and influence. And people want to be able to influence people to move how they want them to move. I don't care how you move, as long as you move according to what Yahuwah wants. That's all that's important. Because if that's what the man wants, that's how we ought to move. That's the end of discussion. Ain't nothing else to talk about after that. Who cares how you personally feel? How I personally feel means absolutely nothing. What does this book say? This is what this book say. That's what we need to do. This is what that's what they were realizing when they found this book of the law in the house of Yahuwah. We had not been doing what the book said to do. Did you not notice that the king said, let me put together what to do? Let me ask any of y'all what to do. They say, go inquire of a prophet of Yahuwah so we can know what to do. Because we ain't been doing what the book said do. Because every man wanted to do what was right in his own eyes. And that's the problem. That's the problem they had then. That's the problem we have now. And now we're picking up the book and we're talking about the book like we stand for it, but in actuality, we do not. So let's swing back to, I forgot what I wanted. I wanted Acts chapter 14, about verse 20, and then John chapter 15. And then we'll continue on dealing with them stepping to the prophetess, because they went to a prophetess by this hill. They went to Huldah, and Huldah delivered the message. And this is why dudes be around here screaming that a woman can preach, because they went to this woman to get a message. She did not teach them. They went to get a message. And we want Acts chapter 14, verse 19. And actually, that's John 17, not John 15. My apologies for that. And there came to the certain Yahudim from Antioch and Iconium, who persuaded the people, and having stoned Paul, drew him out of the city, supposing he had been dead. Howbeit, as the disciples stood round about him, he rose up and came into the city the next day, and departed with Barnabas to Derbe. And when they had preached the gospel to that city, and had taught many, they returned again to Lystra, and to Iconium, and to Antioch, confirming the souls of the disciples, exhorting them to continue in the faith, that we must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of Elohim. And when they ordained them elders in every synagogue, and had prayed with fasting, they commended them to the master, on whom they believed. You see, the key thing they said is whom they believe. I think a lot of people want people to believe on them. See, I was having this conversation with a brother. He said, you ain't supposed to trust nobody. I don't trust my wife. I said, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. You know what I'm saying? He said, well, you ain't supposed to put your trust in man. He said, you ain't supposed to make man your arm or your trust. See, when you trust somebody, that means you have confidence in them. You know what I'm saying? So if you have confidence, there's nothing wrong with you trusting your wife, trusting your husband, trusting your friends, trusting certain family members. The problem is when you trust them more than Yahuwah. That's the problem. See, as you see what's written here, that Luke wrote here, he said that they, on the master, on basically on Yahushua, basically on Yahuwah, on the Father is whom they believed. When you're preaching Yahushua, you're preaching that you might believe on him, that your faith might stand in Elohim and not men. See, you get caught up and you end up placing your faith in men. Now, there's a difference if you did that on your own volition. That's your fault. If a man is trying to persuade you to get you to trust in him, then you know that Yah has not sent him. The master told you, my doctrine is not mine, but his that sent me. If any man know of the doctrine, he know if I speak of him or if I speak of myself. He said, he that speak of himself seek of his own esteem. But he that speak of him that sent him, the same is true, and there's no unrighteousness in it. If they're pointing you to Yahuwah by Hashem Yahushua, then you know there's no unrighteousness in them. If they're pointing you to them, then you know Elohim is not something. This is example of what we talking about with judgment and discernment. You have to pay attention. And you would only be able to discern that by reason of using the word. If you're not using the word, you're not going to discern that. And you're going to miss that, and you're going to get caught up. That's what the scribes and Pharisees did. The scribes and Pharisees were pointing to themselves. They weren't pointing to Elohim, because they wanted the honor that came from men. They didn't want that honor to go to Elohim. They wanted that honor to come to them, to therefore justify whatever insecurities or issues they had within their own self. Nevertheless, John chapter 17. This is just to deal with the fact that the apostles were the ones who preached Mashiach, taught Mashiach, and then you see that they ordained elders and they taught other men, for the correlation that we see in 2 Chronicles 34. Or why it's like that. Because the pastors, the apostles, the prophets, the pastors, the teachers, the evangelists, they are the overseers or the workmen of the house. It is their job to repair the house, to cleanse the house. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to be doing. And everybody wants to place themselves in that position, and that's not your job. Or, as we've seen with other kings, they set up base men to be their priests and men of low degree. And this is why Yasharal was in, especially, I'm talking about the kingdom of Yasharal. It happened in Yehuda as well. That's why our kingdom was in disarray. Because we didn't care who taught us the word. That's why Isaiah 30 said, you know what I'm saying? Prophecy to us smooth things. Prophecy to us deceits. Don't tell us right things. because we don't want to hear that. And that's what we'll kind of gravitate to when we're in a carnal way of thinking or a carnal way of moving. I don't want anything that's going to come and it's going to restrict my behavior. I don't want anything that's actually going to increase my faith in Yahuwah, because I want my faith to be in myself and what I want to do. You have to pay attention to this. The book is littered with this. It's littered with it. We cannot be as so unwise to make the same mistakes that our ancestors made. Because we talked about this almost a year ago. How it said we swear in the name of Yahuwah, but not in righteousness. We can't be just good with, you know, his name, you know his son's name, you know certain things. You can't be good with that. You have to be moving towards justifying yourself through the faith that is in Mashiach by living out that faith. That's what you need to be concerned with. And how you going to get to that point is to cleanse that inner sanctum like we talked about last week. All of those things that are filthy and decrepit and vile and disgusting that's in your heart, you need to cleanse that up out of there, because that's what's going to get you sent to hell. It's the maliciousness, the spite, the lust. You know what I'm saying? Eventually we're going to deal with that Proverbs 16:29, how people slide through and slander people to separate people, which is causing, what's the word I'm looking for? It's in Proverbs chapter 6 and escaped my mind. Discord among brethren. There's a look at that. All of these small, because it's the small, subtle things that end up the big things will get your soul cut off. You know what I'm saying? And it's really the desires and thoughts and intents of your heart. When you cleanse the desires and thoughts and intents of your heart, then you'll be able to flow effortlessly. You know what I'm saying? You'll be able to get the self-control. You'll be able to get the long-suffering. You'll be able to be merciful and compassionate and all of these things, and actually exemplify the living Elohim here on earth as he intended it to be. Nevertheless, Acts chapter 17. We'll pick it up at verse 14, I suppose. Yeah, 14 is good. 17 and 14. That's good. We'll work with that. I have given them thy word, and the world have hated them, because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. And this is the key thing. You got to remember, he that believe in Mashiach have overcome the world, and this is the victory even on faith. You have to look at that. The world should not be engendering themselves to you. Because he said, I gave them the word, and the world hated them because of the word. So you need to always keep that in mind. If you are being mistreated, slandered, hated, persecuted, it's because of the word. It ain't you. They hate Yahuwah. That's what they have a problem with. That's why I told y'all that last week. They really you have to really look at that. Most people don't really respect what you got going on, because they don't respect and love who you say you respect and love. They don't. Put people in the right situation and circumstance, and it's going to show. He said, I pray not that thou should take them out of the world, but that should keep them from the evil. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Excuse me. Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. And as thou hast sent me into the world, even so have I also sent them into the world. And for their sakes I sanctify myself, that they also might be sanctified through the truth. Neither pray I thee for these alone, but for them which shall believe on me through their word. So those men that we seen in 2 Chronicles 34 that had that oversight of those individuals who were repairing the house, the same way the apostles had the oversight of all of these men who were sent forth to help repair the house. They were teaching these men the word so that they could believe. How could anybody else get the testimony? How would these people know the testimony of Yahushua except for the apostles? He had only gave it to them. He gave it to those 11 men, and then Paul on his way to Damascus. Nobody else had it. When you look at Apollos of Alexandria, Yahuwah did that for a reason. He did that for a reason because of what was going on in that particular synagogue at that time. They had to only get, that's why he sent the apostles out to preach. That's why he told them to wait till Jerusalem till you be endued with power from on high. Wasn't doubt, my apologies. With power from on high, because there was nobody else that had that information to disseminate it. Then they had to sit down and literally teach all of these people this. That's why they were moving around and making moves the way they were making moves. Because these men had to impart this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding unto other faithful men so they could impart it to the people so it could spread. Because the apostles couldn't be in every place and everywhere at every time. It was only 12 of them. How were they going to be able to do it? Well, my apology, it was 13 of them, because we know one was to take Judah's place. So how are they going to be able to do it? So you have to understand that. Back to 2 Chronicles 34. What verse did we stop? We stopped in verse 21. It says, "Go inquire of YAHUAH for me, and for them that are left in Yasharal and Yehuda concerning the words of the book that is found. For great is the wrath of Yahuwah that is poured out upon us, because our fathers have not kept the word of Yahuwah to do all that is written in this book." Now, we talked about a little bit about this the other week, but we're going to look at it again. Psalm chapter 32. And then right back to Isaiah 55. Because I want y'all to understand something. Right now, you're in a time where Yahuwah can be found. After we read Psalms 32 and Isaiah 55, we're going to go to Revelation chapter 14. Do not sit back and wait to seek. See, this tie into Amos chapter 8 when he say they're going to go to and fro throughout the earth looking for the word of Yahuwah, and they're not going to be able to find it because it's going to be a drought. See, don't wait till it's too late to seek Yahuwah. Seek this man where he may be found. Whatever you got going on that contrary to the word, take it, put it in a garbage can, and throw it in the dumpster. Take it, put it in the toilet, and flush it. You need to feel just like Paul feel in Philippians chapter 3 verse 8, that you ought to think that whatever was behind you before you knew Yahushua, you need to treat it as dung. And you need to be looking forward and not behind, and pressing to that mark in the high calling of Yahushua. All that other stuff you got going on, you're going to take yourself to hell. And for what? And for what? There's no need to make no excuses. There's no need to make no justifications. If it's contrary to the word, if it's contrary to Kadesh, if it's contrary to righteousness, cast it away. Just get rid of it. Psalms 32 and verse 5. "I acknowledge my sin unto thee, and my iniquity have I not hid, and I will confess my transgressions unto Yahuwah. Thou forgive the iniquity of my sin." Pause, and let's look at 1 John chapter 1. Of course, this is also leading us up to dealing with the emergence, y'all willing, that we have on Trump is coming. But let's look at 1 John chapter 1. Because he said he acknowledged his iniquity and he forgave the sin. So let's look at a point of that in 1 John chapter 1 and 1. Chapter 1 and 1. We want about verse 5. Actually, let's look at verse 6 is cool. "If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and do not the truth." Hey, Lizzie. If we say we one with Mashiach and we walking in sin, we lying. And we're not doing the faith. You're not holding fast to the faith if this is what we're saying we got going on. So why walk in darkness when you can easily awake up out of slumber and Mashiach can give you light, because in him was light, and the light is the life of men? Why are you refusing eternal life? What is it that you desire to do so bad that it's worth dying for? But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another. And the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach, his son, cleanse us from all sin. If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So when we sit back and we look at this here, this is why David is making this, because this is the sign of a humble. But see, don't sit back and say you're going to come back to Psalm 32. Don't sit back and say you're going to confess it and then don't do like Proverbs tell you and forsake it. Because you don't need to meddle with it no more. That's why he told that woman, go and sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon you. Because that's what you have to look at. If somebody can tell you, okay, I can sin and I feel bad about it, but then turn back around and do it again, that is not the sign of a repentant heart. You're only sad because you feel like he saw it. You know what I'm saying? That's what you're sad about. Because if you were truly sad, as God, 2 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 9, if you were truly sad, you ain't doing it again. See, we were talking about this the other day. We look at David, right? And how Yah did David by sending Nathan to let him condemn himself and with his behavior when he gave him that parable of what he had going on. And this is 2 Corinthians 7 and 8 actually. And when David sat back and realized the magnitude of the transgression, I ain't doing that no more. I'll never do that again. Because that was the example of the repentant heart. Because that's why he said, I acknowledged my iniquity. I acknowledged the lawlessness that I had done. See, we'll acknowledge it, but then we won't forsake it and put it away. Because we want that it's an example of false humility. So you have to pay attention to false humility. Because some people can pretend to be humble, but in actuality they're doing that to gain some manner of adulation or pity, when in their heart they're going to go do the same thing all over again. You know what I'm saying? It's not really a transformation and change of behavior. This is why John the Baptist told the scribe when they came, "Who have told you to flee from the wrath to come, O generation of vipers? Bring forth fruits meet for repentance." So your actions need to manifest that you have turned from whatever it is you got going on. Whatever it is. Every man knows the plague of his own. Whatever you got going on, you would have showed that you had turned from that. And there would be a consistent application of it. Because I seen the brother mention it today. And I had told y'all this before, like, if there were punks or bulldaggers amongst the body in the time period with the acts of the apostles, they didn't allow them people to fellowship with them. If them people were fornicating, they didn't allow them people to fellowship with them. If they were worshiping idols, they didn't allow that. They didn't allow it. See, we look at it now as that's cultish, or you shouldn't do that, and that's not right. Them people didn't go for that. They didn't go for it. They wasn't with it. You know what I'm saying? I explained to y'all this before numerous times over the years. That's in the law. That's where they were getting this from. See, we be more concerned about people's feelings, or you concerned about your feelings, versus that. How do you think YAHUAH feels? How do you think YAHUSHA feels when you say that you know of him, and you say that you believe on him, and then you can go contrary to him with no regards to him? And then you feel like, my feelings hurt because someone has reprimanded you or separated themselves from you because of your behavior. Because we had a discussion a few weeks back. Oh, shoot, it seemed like longer than that. Well, they're like, what? Yeah, the book tell you not to even eat with a fornicator, much less fellowship with them. And people don't want to hear that. And the reason why people don't want to hear that, because they fornicate. So they feel like y'all wouldn't do people like that. Clearly you don't know y'all. Because if you knew Yah, you would be just like what Eli said. If that be the word of YAHUAH, YAHUAH is just and righteous. Let his word be fulfilled. That's the type of heart you would have. Nevertheless, 2 Corinthians 7 and 8. For though I made you sorry with the letter, I do not repent. Though I did repent, for I perceive that the same epistle had made you sorry, though it were but for a season. Now I rejoice, not that you were made sorry, but that you sorrowed to repentance. For you were made sorry after a godly manner, that you might receive damage by us in nothing. For godly sorrow work repentance to salvation, not to be repented of. But the sorrow of the world work death. For behold, the selfsame thing that you sorrowed after a godly sort, what carefulness it wrought in you, yea, what clearing of yourselves, yea, what indignation, yea, what fear, yea, what vehement desire, yea, what zeal, yea, what revenge, and all these things you have approved yourselves to be clear in this matter. So he said this selfsame thing of him moving you to a godly sorrow, of which he said he would not turn from. See, because that's what people, basically Paul tell you, I don't care about your feelings. I don't care that your feelings is hurt. This is what he tell. I don't care. If I have to hurt your feelings for you to save your soul so you can repent to salvation, then your feelings will just be hurt. Because I don't personally care. But then he told them something. He said that same sorrow after a godly sort would cause you to be careful in your mind. Which would cause you to, like it says in Exodus chapter 23, and when Paul wrote in the epistle of Ephesians, that you would be circumspect. That you will walk with wisdom. You will be careful in your movings. Then he said the clearing of yourself. Because now you done cleared this iniquity out of your conscience and out of your heart. Then he said what indignation. Because now you should be angry with yourself. Then through that indignation, a vehement desire to put it away and to walk according to the word. Because now you have zeal, which is a jealousy for Elohim's word. Now you're not going to do this anymore. Then what? Revenge. And that you can approve in yourself that you're clear of whatever it is that you transgressed in. But your feelings are irrelevant. And that's what niggas' problem is. They worry about their feelings. Who cares about your feelings? Would you rather have your feelings hurt and your soul saved, or your feelings coddled and you go to hell? Which one sounds better? Which option sounds like the best way to go? We live in a society now that all they care about is people's feelings. They don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. They don't want nobody to make nobody feel bad. You're worried about people's self-esteem, and that's why society is going down the drain. That's why people are mentally weak. That's why people are not very strong. That's why people don't have a lot of self-accountability or any of these things, because you're worried about people's feelings. But worrying about people's feelings ain't getting nothing done. We can't be worried about that. Your feelings are grossly irrelevant when it comes to the word. Nevertheless, Psalms 32 and verse 6. For this shall everyone that is godly pray unto thee in a time when thou may be found. Surely in the flood of great waters they shall not come nigh unto him. So Isaiah 55. It's just to reiterate this here, man. Because they find in this book of the law and they seeing it's wrath on their head. But there was a time, but Yahuwah allowed them to find that because it was a time in which he could be found. So therefore they had a space to repent, which we'll hit that note before we get up out of here, because I got 20 more minutes at the most. Isaiah 55 and 6. Make it 3 though. Incline your ear and come unto me. Hear, and your soul shall live. I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David. Behold, I have given him for a witness to the people, a leader and a commander to the people. Behold, thou shalt call a nation that thou know not, and nations that knew not thee shall run unto thee, because of Yahuwah thy Elohim, for the Kadesh one of Yasharal, for he hath esteemed thee. Seek ye Yahuwah while he may be found, and call upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts. And let him return unto Yahuwah, and he will have mercy upon him and to our Elohim, for he will abundantly pardon. So you notice the key thing he told you? He told you that also not only that you need to forsake your way, but the unrighteous man need to forsake his thoughts. Which takes us back to being renewed into the ruach of your mind, and not according to the deceitful man who is corrupt according to the world and lust, but according to the new man which is created in righteousness and true kadash. You got to get a new heart and a new ruach. You got to abandon that thought process. You have to bring your thoughts into the captivity of Mashiach. That's what do a lot of people done in, because you looking at him saying you need to forsake what you're doing. Then he tells you need to forsake your thoughts. Because remember, he said, my thoughts are not like your thoughts, and my ways are not like your ways. That's why the master told you, you are from below and I am from above. You are of this world and I am from heaven. You have to turn from being carnal into being spiritual. And the only way you're going to do that is you have to forsake your thoughts. And the word Yahuwah has to become your thoughts. Yahushua got to become your thoughts. The word has to become your thoughts, because when your word become your thoughts, then that's what's going to come up out of your heart. That's why he say guard your heart, because the issues of life emanate from it. If you don't protect your heart and your thoughts, then you will walk after the flesh and you will perish. And it doesn't make sense to do that when a work of righteousness and mercy so great has been worked on our behalf, for us to go down because we're too stubborn to let go of our own way and our own thoughts and our own doings. It doesn't make any sense. Nevertheless, what did I want? I can't recall. Give me a moment, it'll return. Nevertheless, 2 Chronicles chapter 34. We're in verse 22. It'll come back to me in a minute. I can't remember. Oh yeah, Revelation chapter 14. Praise the Lamb. I'll tell you, it'll come back. Revelation chapter 14. I want to say about verse 6. It's verse 6. Revelation 14 and 6. Listen what it say, right? And another Malachim, and I saw another Malachim fly in the midst of Shamahim, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and every nation, kindred, and tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, fear Elohim and give esteem to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made Shamahim, and earth, and the sea, and the fountains of waters. And there followed another Malachim, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all the nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And a third Malachim followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone. in the presence of the Kadesh Malachim, and in the presence of the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment ascend up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receives the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the Kadeshim. Here are they that keep the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yahushua. And I heard a voice from Shamahim saying unto me, Right, Baruch are the dead which die, and the master from henceforth, yea, saith the Ruach, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. Now the reason why they're being preached, because this is the time, the beast is in rule. If we go back and look at chapter 12 and chapter 13. But yet there was still a time where Yahuwah could be found. But as we begin to go further into chapter 15 and chapter 16 and 17 and 18, when these wraths and the vials of wrath of Yahuwah begin to be poured out upon the earth, that time where he can be found begins to get slimmer and slimmer and slimmer, to the point where he will no longer be found, because all his servants would have been sealed up. And now it's time for him to execute the fierceness of his wrath upon all those who utterly refuse to obey the word. So you got to be wiser than that. What are we looking at now? Back to 2 Chronicles 34 and verse 22. And Hilkiah, my apologies, and they that the Malach had appointed went to hold of the prophetess, the wife of Shalom, the son of Tikvath, the son of Hasarah, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she dwelt in Jerusalem in the college, and they spake to her to that effect. She answered them, Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal, Tell ye the man that sent you to me. Thus saith Yahuwah, Behold, I will bring evil upon this place and upon the inhabitants thereof, even all the curses that are written in the book, which they have read before the Malach of Yehudah, because they have forsaken me, and have burned incense unto other gods, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath shall be poured out upon this place, and shall not be quenched. As for the Malach of Yehudah, who sent you to inquire of Yahuwah, so shall you say unto him, Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal concerning the words which thou hast heard. Because thine heart was tender, and thou did humble thyself before Elohim when thou heard his words against this place and against the inhabitants thereof, and humbled thyself before me, and did rent thy clothes, and weep before me. I have heard thee also, saith Yahuwah. Behold, I will gather thee to thy fathers, and thou shalt be gathered to thy grave in Shalom. Neither shall thy eyes see all the evil that I will bring upon this place, and the inhabitants of the same. So they brought the king word again. Then the king sent and gathered together all the elders of Yehudah and Jerusalem, and the king went up into the house of Yahuwah, and all the men of Yehudah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests and the Levites, and all the people great and small, and he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant that was found in the house of Yahuwah. And the Malach stood in his place and made a covenant before Yahuwah to walk after Yahuwah, to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all his heart and with all his soul, to perform the words of the covenant which were written in the book. And he caused all that were present in Jerusalem and Benjamin to stand to it, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem did according to the covenant of Elohim, the Elohim of their fathers. And Josiah took away all the abominations out of all the countries that pertain to the children of Yasharal, and made all that were present in Yasharal to serve, even to serve Yahuwah their Elohim. And in all his days they departed not from following Yahuwah the Elohim of their fathers. Now there's a reason y'all willing to Shabbat night, because we're not going to try to delve into the second half of this particular matter. We're going to deal with the part of when he renewed the covenant with them. But upon hearing the word, Josiah, once he read the book of the law, and we're also going to look at the observance of Passover, because the renewal of the covenant story is in 2 Kings 22, which I had told y'all to hold, which we didn't get to. And we're going to look at that in 2 Kings 23, of all that he did as far as renewing the covenant, and how all the abominations that, when you're renewing the covenant, and which we're going to tie, that's why we're going to tie it in with the observance of the Passover that Josiah wrought. Knowing that the renewing of the covenant by Mashiach was done during Passover. It was for the purpose of what we seen, to cause the people, because the new covenant, the law is in your heart and your inward parts. And you don't longer walk after your own heart and your own mind and your own thoughts, but you're going to walk after Yahuwah. Notice that they did not depart from it. So knowing that once you hear this word and you hear the wrath that is pronounced upon you for being contrary to it, then we're going to look at YAHUAH Shabbat night of how we should have the same thought process that Josiah moved the people to do. Remember that Josiah name means Yahuwah heals, the same way that how Mashiach came to heal, which is going to move us to this godly sorrow, to put away all these abominations and to no longer walk after our own way and our own heart, that we may be found of him. See, they ended up being healed because they came and they confessed their iniquities in the time that he may be found. But like we said back and we just mentioned before in that Revelation 14, and what I referenced in Amos 8, and we'll look at it again, YAHUAH on Shabbat, do not wait and think that you can call on this man when you feel like it and you get ready, because it could be in a time where he will not be found, and then that would be a time where you lose your eternal soul. But hallelujah for Yahushua and the word. We will stop right there.